Okay, a little while ago I did a tutorial on making 3D screencasts in Blender because a viewer asked. And Joe Steiger has asked me a number of times to do a sequel to that, so that's what I'm doing. I'm using Blender 2.61 here, and I'm just going to go through this. Normally with something like this, I'd run a test run before I start recording, but I'm going to kind of make this up as I go along, so I might mess up. So just bear with me. First things first, go to User Preferences, Add-ons, type in Plane, and make sure you have this Import Images as Planes checked, because we're going to use that a lot, and if you don't have it checked, it comes with Blender, but it's disabled by default, so make sure you have that on. So here we go. I'm also going to turn on that, or people will complain. And I'm just going to go through this. Like I said, I don't know exactly 100% what I'm going to do, but here we go. I'm going to delete the default cube. I'm going to add a plane. And I'm going to use the import images as plane. So I hit spacebar, I typed in plane, choose import images as plane. I'm going to go to a folder where I have some images saved already, and the first one will be my browser. You can also click this icon up here, which will give you nice little thumbnails to look at. Import that. If I go to textured mode here, you can see the image on there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit R, X, and type in 90 and hit enter on my number pad. What that did was rotated it on the x-axis 90 degrees. I'm also going to hit 3 on my number pad here to move to side view, and I'm going to right click and drag our lighting over here. Now I might be going a little fast for you, but this is kind of an intermediate tutorial, so I assume you know the basics already, but I'm still trying to tell you everything I'm doing. I'm going to hit 0 on the number pad to go to the camera view here, and actually I'm going to hit 1 on the number pad to go to front view. Scroll with my mouse to zoom in, and with this plane selected, right-clicking it, I'm going to hit G for grab, Z to move it on the Z-axis, and I'm going to press 1, and it will move it up, and hit enter. You can move it manually, but that will should put it right on the base plane here. And so at this point, I can hit spacebar and type in plane, and choose just regular add plane. S to scale that up, I'll try 50 as a size. And if I hit F12 now, you can see how it renders out. We have our plane here with our image on it. The lighting's over here, so it's casting a shadow that way. And we've got a plane down here that's just a plain gray color, which we're going to change in a second. Let's also turn on, click over here on the world settings. We will turn on ambient occlusion and turn it to multiply. And we'll turn on environment lighting and hit F12. That will lighten things up. We'll change the lighting here in a little bit maybe, but that's what I'm going with right now. So you can see it's a lot brighter. It will slow down your rendering a little bit. Keep that in mind. So you may want to keep that off until you're ready for your final renders. But here we go. And one of the things that Joe wanted to know how to do is make this ground plane reflective. So what I'm going to do is, with it selected, pull this out, choose a material and say new material. Come down here to mirror, check mirror on, and then you have reflectivity. Higher this number, the more reflective it is, more mirror-like it is. Also slower it will render. And this Fresnel, that's kind of like gives it a frosted look. We'll play with that a little bit too, but let's turn this up about halfway, hit F12, and there you go. You can see the reflective plane there. It's also reflecting the sky above, which is just a gray color by default. We might change that. No, we'll probably change that in a little bit. Actually, let's move our camera. Let's hit 1 on... Oh, sorry. Whack my mic there. 1 on the number pad, and we'll zoom in here. And I'm going to hit spacebar and type in camera, and we'll say align camera to, and that will align the camera to our current view. At this point, I can right-click the camera and hit G and align it how I want it. Hit F12. There we go. We can see our plane here. I'm going to try to match the sky color to this ground color, kind of giving us an infinite look. One way of doing that is going to the world view here, choosing horizon, choose this little eyedropper, and click somewhere on this reflective plane close to the edge there. We'll hit F12 now. And it's not perfect, and the reason for that is because this plane has changed based on the sky color. There's actually ways you can change this by actually curving up the ground plane so that it's kind of like a backdrop. I'm not going to worry about that too much right now anyway. Let me, with my camera selected here, actually move it back a little bit. And I am going to actually, excuse me, try to think about what I want to do. Let's start working on some of the animation. How about that? What I'm going to do here is I'm going to go up 30 frames. So I hit Shift and up arrow 3 times. Each time I do that, it moves 10 frames. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this plane here, and I'm going to hit I, and I'm going to choose to set keyframe for the location, rotation, and scale. Then I'm going to hit Shift down arrow 3 times to go back to our first frame. I'm going to hit R and Z and just kind of move my cursor till I get this kind of rotated just slightly like so. And I'm going to hit I and set another keyframe. So now if I hit F12, you can see this is what it will look like in the first frame. And if I hit Alt-A, you can see the animation. The plane turns and faces the camera. So that's a nice little animation you can start off with. And what we'll also do is I'll hit Shift up arrow to go to that 30th frame or 31st frame again. And actually, let's hit Shift left arrow to go back to the first frame. I'm going to hit I with the camera selected this time and set a location, rotation, and scale keyframe for that. And then hit Shift up arrow 3 times. And with the camera selected, G, center click, and then drag in. And I'm going to hit I to lock another keyframe in. So if we hit Shift down arrow 3 times, then hit Alt-A, you can see the animation there. It's kind of fast. You may not want it that fast. Once again, all depends on what you're going for here. And you can always move those keyframes later on. So another plane I'm going to import. So let me go into the top view here and hit Z for wireframe. I'm going to hit spacebar and once again type in planes. Import images as planes, and I'm going to choose this one that's a cursor. And if we do the thumbnail view again, you can see it's a cursor. It's a PNG with a transparent background. And this time, make sure that we choose, I'm going to go shadeless, use alpha, and pre-multiply. Shadeless will make it so lighting does not affect it. It will always be 100% viewable. Use alpha. We'll use the PNG alpha, which makes the background transparent. And the pre-multiply will actually smooth the edges a little bit with the transparency. So we'll hit import images plane. We'll hit RX 90, rotate it 90 degrees. Go back to our camera view by hitting 0 on the number pad. I'm going to scale that down a bunch. I'm going to grab it. And hitting 3, oops. Grab it, move it up. Click again. What I'm going to do here in the side view, I hit 3 on the number pad, 5 on the number pad to turn off perspective mode. I'm going to grab and move that plane so it's right in front of the camera there. We'll go back to the camera view and we will scale that down. And let's have a look at it right now. Hey, we've got a nice big cursor there. So in the first tutorial, I used actual videos I recorded to capture a cursor. This time we're going to animate one. Once again, this is putting a little more effort into what we're doing here. And I recommend taking shortcuts whenever you can. So I think that's a good size right there. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, with the cursor selected, or our cursor plane selected, shift select the camera and hit Control P. And I'm going to parent to object. So no matter where the camera is, you can see that cursor is following it. Let's go into texture mode. So you can see the cursor follows it, but we can also move the cursor independently if I move it over here, but then again, if we move the camera, it will follow. So the cursor will always follow the camera, but the cursor can move by itself without moving the camera. So what I'm going to do here is continue with our animation, I suppose. Camera selected, I'll hit up arrow 3 more times for another second. If we're going 30 frames a second, actually default in Blender is 24 frames a second, but close enough, and you can always change that. I'm going to grab And just continue to move the camera in a little bit. Set a keyframe. I'm going to go up 3 more frames. And I'm going to continue to move the camera in and up using the G option. Right there looks good. And I'll set another keyframe with the camera selected. And at this point, let's put in another keyframe for the cursor, so the cursor's kind of moving while we're doing this as well. Actually, we haven't set any keyframes for the cursor. So what I'll do is I'll just grab and I'll move the cursor here. I'll hit I, set a keyframe for that. I'll go somewhere halfway into our animation, grab the cursor, move it here, set another keyframe, go back to the beginning, and maybe even just move it off so it comes flying in as we start. So there we go, the cursor comes in, we're zooming in, the cursor's going up to there. And next thing we're going to do is have the cursor click on the edit menu. So what I'm going to do here is do a slight animation with the camera so it's kind of constantly moving in, and set a keyframe there. Choose our cursor here, and I will grab and move it up to here. Now at this point I'm going to import another plane. So I'm going to go top view. I go to wireframe mode just so I can see what I'm importing. Plane, import images plane. And I'm going to use this menu one. Import it. Rotate X 90. And move it just slightly in front of our browser plane. Go back to our camera view here. And I'm going to grab that and scale it. We'll go back to textured mode here and scale it to where it looks good. We'll put it right like that. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward 1 frame, lock a location, rotation, and scale for that. Go back to our keyframe where the mouse cursor gets up there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to scale it on the z-axis like so. I'm just kind of making this up as I go. Actually, I can hit depends on whether you want to have an animation if it's dropping down or not. I'm going to kind of go for just kind of it popping there, maybe. No, you know what? Let's actually do an animation of it opening up. So I'm going to go back to this keyframe, and I'm thinking about what I want to do here. Okay, we'll go up. Ten frames. 10 frames, a third of a second should be good. I'll hit I to set a keyframe for that. Then I'll go back down to this keyframe here. And then I will scale Z0. Click. Grab and move it up to here. I'm not sure how this is going to look. I have not done this before. There we go. That's what our animation looks like slowly. It will actually do that a lot faster. In fact, let's hit Alt-A. Okay. So if you wanted to animate the menu like that, you can have it fly in. You can have it do pretty much whatever you'd like. So at this point, I'm going to go up 30 more frames. So we have a second of animation here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab. I'm going to zoom in. Grab to here. And I think I've moved in so much that my little mouse cursor actually went behind this plane. So let's fix that. We'll go into our side view here. 3 on the number pad. Zoom in. We'll hit Z. Because we're zoomed in pretty close right now. We'll grab that cursor, move it to here, and set another keyframe. And let's just go back. Oh, I didn't set a keyframe for the camera. Go back to our camera view here, and once again we'll go to textured mode. So you can see this is very labor intensive, depending on how much effort you want to put into it. I'm putting a lot more effort into this one than I did my original one, using the mouse cursor and everything and still planes rather than video planes for some things. So again, grab the camera, grab it like so, grab to here. My cursor is off here for some reason. Move it there. Grab it back here. Go back to the camera view here. Perfect. Grab it there. We'll set a keyframe for that and a keyframe for the camera. Now let's go back one frame at a time and see. Okay, we lose the cursor there. So we'll go somewhere halfway in the middle here. Let's actually go to where I can see the cursor, choose the cursor, then go about halfway. And I'm going to grab Y and move it up until I can see it. So now we can look at the animation. Good, we can see the cursor the entire time. And of course you'll want to be saving regularly, which I think I'll do right now. Save as, we'll go temp folder, I suppose. Don't actually save your projects in the temp folder. Screencast. Okay. Okay. And now you see why I was avoiding this video for so long. It's kind of long to do. Okay. So next, I want to have another window pop in. Now, keep in mind the timing of your animation. So let's hit Alt A and play this. So we come in, cursor comes flying in, we zoom in, we click on Edit, the menu drops down, we go to Preferences. I think that looks pretty good so far. And of course, like I said, you can always move keyframes or even adjust the length of the video after you render it out in some cases, depending on how much you want to change it. I'm going to go, up 10 frames, and actually let's top view, see, import images plane. This time I'm going to import this preferences PNG, rotate X 90, and what I'm going to do here, I'm going to grab it, move it here to where I can see it if I'm in textured mode. There it is down there. I'm going to put it just so you can see it kind of in the camera view there. So now let's hit F12 and see how that looks rendered. Okay, looking good. Now we do have kind of a square shadow around our cursor. I'm now noticing that I rendered it out, and that's because it's transparent, but we need to set the planes it's receiving the shadow to receive transparent shadows. So select this plane, go to its materials, and scroll down to shadow, and receive transparent. Now if I hit F12, it looks the same. I think I had this issue once before, and it has to do with the ambient occlusion lighting as well. So we'll change the lighting a little bit if that's a problem. For me, I would just go with that, but some people are very particular about stuff. But not a problem. Let's also, while we're here, click this and choose Receive Transparency, and same with this one. So when we do change lighting, they're all set and ready to go. Okay, so we have this here. Let's set a keyframe for it. And what we'll do at this point, let me hit front view, number 1 on the notepad. I'm going to go back one frame. Actually, I'll go back. Let's see. I'm going to go back 10 frames, I suppose. And I'm going to grab that. I'm going to move it down below our ground plane so you won't see it until it comes in. And now if you can see it flying like that, but in our camera view you'll just see it kind of come in there at the end. There we go. So like you're clicking on preferences and that's showing up. Okay. So let's set a keyframe for our camera now. Here. And we'll go up 1 second again, so 30 frames. Shift up arrow 3 times. And I'm going to grab, zoom out, grab and move this to here. Actually, I'm going to grab and move it further out than that. Move it all the way out like that. We'll hit keyframe. Let's hit F12 and see how that looks. Cool, cool, cool. Our cursor looks extremely huge here. I didn't resize the camera. I moved the camera, didn't I? Oh, because I zoomed it out, I think, up there. So, doesn't really matter. Once again, how particular you are, you can move that cursor or scale it down, set some keyframes for it. But I'm about to zoom back in here. I also just realized I think this plane is still below our ground plane a little bit. So let's grab it and move it up. It's actually also kind of big. Should have done this before I set the last keyframe, because now it's going to be resizing, but it's during the motion of the camera, so I don't know how much we'll notice it. Yeah, so it actually might add a little bit to your animation. All up to you, once again. So what we can do here now that we have this window up, we can move these ones out of the way, give it kind of a 3D move away. So let's click on that plane. I'll hit I to set a keyframe for that, I to set a keyframe for that. We'll go up. Actually, let's go down. I'm going to have them fly away, I think, during... No, I'll do it after. I'll do it right here. I'll go up 30 frames. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this one. I'm going to rotate it Z, so 90 degrees. Actually, yeah, that'd be fine. And I'm going to move it off to the side, like so, and set a keyframe. So, if we play our animation, it's going to fly away like that. And we can do the same for this one. But maybe I'll offset the animation a little bit. And what I'll go up 40 frames instead of 30, so it's a little bit slower than the other one. And I will rotate Z 90 and grab and move that off to the side and set a keyframe. So now, oh, it goes behind the other plane. We will fix that now. Right there. Because the other one's rotating, it's swinging around and hitting that. What we probably could do, we'll go up to this frame here and choose that. And what we're going to do is, actually, one more frame. Right there to where that keyframe is. I'm going to grab Y and actually move it back some and back that way. And hopefully moving it back like that. Yes, moved it back enough that it doesn't hit the menus. So those kind of fly off, giving you more of a 3D feel. And let's see. I want to go to where that keyframe of that stops. And I'm going to move this down. At this point, I think. Grab and move it there so it's right on the plane. Set a keyframe for that. Go back to our camera view. Hit F12, see how that looks. So we can see that reflective part that's part of what we're doing today. And at this point, I'm also going to start zooming the camera in a little bit. Like so. At this point, I need to make my project longer. And so far, we're moving pretty fast. Like, this is going to go pretty fast once we render it out. But let's go to our render here. I'm going to set this to, we'll say 500 for now. And remember, 30 frames a second, so 300 frames. Well, actually, we're doing 24 frames a second right now, but we'll just go by 30. 300 frames a second is 10 seconds. This video is going to be about 20 seconds as we have it right now. We're at about the halfway point. we're about 10 seconds in. So we're moving kind of fast. Once again, you have to time the animation to how fast you want it. Make the parts where you're talking longer and the parts that you're not talking, that you just have transitions, faster. So next, I set a keyframe for that, right? Yes, it looks like it. Keyframe for that. And I'm going to go up 30 more frames, grab this. See, the cursor isn't changing size, but since we're zooming in and out, it looks like it's changing size. So that's all up to you, whether you want to resize that as you move or how you want to do that animation. I'm going to hit I and lock a keyframe for that. And just to give the cursor a little more animation, I'm going to hit an I there and go here. And I'm going to grab and move the cursor here, set a keyframe. And I'm going to go halfway there and move it up here. Just to give a little more animation to the cursor moving around as the camera's flying around. So we click on that. Let's save our project. Yes, save over that. And I have one more window I want to import. So I'm going to hit 7Z. I don't know. I just do this because I like to see the plane there before I rotate it. Don't know why. Rotate X90. Going to grab and move it to here. Go into the front view or camera view here. Textured. Actually, one. And scale it down because it should be smaller than the other window. Put it right there. And back to camera view. So here is where we click on that and that window pops up. So we'll set a keyframe for that plane right there. And we'll go back 10 frames and I'll move it, grab it and move it down below the plane there so we don't see it until this point. So up 10 frames, there it is. We'll go up 30 more frames. And, oh wait, do I have the, okay, make sure that's where the keyframe for the camera is. 2, 3, grab here. I'll also move the cursor once again just to give it some animation. I'm going to set a keyframe here for this plane, as well as this plane. And what I'm going to do is I'll go up. I just like to be able to see what's going on here. Up 30 more frames. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera out. So I'll grab that, move it out like so. Lock a keyframe for that. I'm going to move my cursor like so. Lock a keyframe for that. I am also going to rotate Z90. No. That's because I want it to rotate the other way, I think. Z, and I'll rotate it like this. Grab Y, move it back like this, and over like that. Let's go down our 30 frames and go through this frame by frame. Oh, did I forget to set that keyframe? I moved it but didn't set a keyframe. There is a button down here to record keyframes as you move stuff, but whenever I do that, I accidentally record keyframes. I don't mean to. So up to you, whatever you're into. Rotate Z this way, grab it, Y, move it back, grab it, move it over, and then press I to lock the keyframe in. So let's go. Oops, I went back all the way to the beginning. Did not mean to do that. So here we go. We'll go through this frame by frame. That moves aside as we move up like this. Okay. Also, just hitting up and down. I always forget this because it's kind of new in the new version of Blender. Up and down jumps you to the keyframes of the selected items. So that would have been a little bit faster than what I just did. We're almost done here. This is the last window I have here. And what I'm going to do here is, if we hit F12, let's have a look at it. Okay. Let's go to its materials and say receive transparent shadows. And we'll do one last little zoom in here. 3. And I'll zoom in like so. Hit I. Go up. Another second. Grab. Like so. Hit I. And I will grab and move this cursor to here. Let's go back a few frames and move the cursor like so, just to give it a little more animation. So let's go Shift, left arrow, and let's watch our whole animation here. Not rendered out. Click, that drops down, preferences, that zooms in, we zoom out. Settings, and we zoom in and click no proxies, even though that's what's already checked. So at this point, let's have a look at our lighting here. This is with a quick and easy way of using ambient occlusion and environment lighting, but like I said, we have an issue with the shadows like that. Let's turn those off. Once again, if we hit F12, things are going to be kind of dark here. I'm going to go into camera view. I'm hitting F12, by the way, to render stuff out. Here's my lighting. Let's grab and move that to here, and we will go here to our lighting panel. I'm going to change this to an area lamp. Rotate it so it points this way. Change the distance to 15 so it's a little bit shorter. Basically, wherever this line right here from the light ends is going to be the strongest point, energy of 1. Let's change that to 0.5. And let's make the size of the light bigger. We'll say 8. There we go, that's pretty big. And we'll turn up the samples to 6. Let's hit F12 and see how that looks. Okay. Once again, we can play with the ground plane here a little bit. Let's see if we choose that. We will go to Materials, and under Mirror right there, what we'll do is we'll turn up this Fresnel. I'm not really sure if that's how you say that. Let's set it, looks like 5 is max. Let's set it to like 2 and hit F12 and see how that looks. Slowing down the rendering a little bit. Don't see too much of a difference in that case. Let's turn it up to 5 just so you can see what the max looks like. Not a whole lot of difference there either. Not really sure why. Maybe curved objects, it's more with a sphere or something, it definitely gives it more of a frosted look. Might change the blend as well, but I'll leave it at 0 right now just because I think it renders a little bit faster without that. I could be wrong. So at this point, let's try to match that sky plane again. Oops, render that out. Come here, horizon. Choose that there. Now if I hit F12, escape F12. The problem, like I said, with the reflective ground, it's reflecting the sky, which is going to, whenever we try to match it, it's going to be a little different. So different things we can do here with the reflective ground. I'm sure if we went complete black with the sky, let's do that. Let's see what that looks like. Once again, this is kind of the artistic part of it. You may want something like this, where it kind of fades off to black. In fact, I kind of like that. I think I'm going to go with that. And now that we did that, let's go in and right here I want to see F12, how that looks. See, now we have a shadow of the cursor that looks like the cursor. We don't have to worry about that square because we're not using the ambient occlusion anymore. I think I'm about ready. Let's see. Our camera is what has the most keyframes. We'll choose that. Our last keyframe was about here at 382. So what I'll do is, in this case, I'll set my final end frame to 382 and save my project. I will come here to our render. Oh, I'm already in the render window. Really, you probably want to use HDTV 1080p to get a good quality. So that's what I would normally do. I'm going to go with 720. It's going to be a little lower resolution, but still HD. I'm going to go with... normally I would change it to 30 frames a second because I'm used to that for timing. But in this case, just to make the video a little bit longer, but without rendering more frames, I'll leave it at 24. I'm going to change this to XVID. Which should change our encoding to XVID, but there seems to be a little glitch in 2.61. I don't know if I know 2.62 is out. I don't know if they fixed that in 2.60. That would be enough, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down here to encoding presets and change that to XVID. You have some options in here. You can turn up the bit rate if you want, other stuff. I'm just going to leave that as default. Looks fine to me. And I will render this out as Screencast. Now, if you don't put .avi, it will put numbers at the end, 1 through 382, since that's the frame. But if you do .avi, it will leave that off. Up to you. Does not warn you if you're overwriting files, so remember, if you already have a file that name, it will overwrite it, and we'll click Animate, and it will start rendering that out. Oh, I just realized something I will need to change. So escape to cancel that. Go back to our first frame. Our menu is right there, and you can see that line when it's rendered. So what we want to do here is, there's the keyframe for that menu, that first keyframe. So I'm going to hit right arrow or up arrow. We're at it. I'm going to go down or left arrow to move back 1 frame, and I am going to grab that and move it down, down, down below our plane here. Hit I to set a keyframe for that. So now in 1 frame it will pop up there. Save it, animate it, and I will put the final render of this at the end of this tutorial. So, stretch. I thank you for watching. I know it was kind of long, and kind of an intermediate tutorial. Not that hard, but you need to learn the basics of Blender. Basically, learn a little bit about materials, how to move around in the interface, resize, rotate, and move objects. And other than that, I mean, those are the basics. Once you learn that, you're ready to do a lot of stuff. So if you don't know how to do those few things, there are tutorials at the Blender website, video tutorials, written tutorials. I have a few, not too much on Blender 2.6 or 2.5 with a new interface. And the reason I haven't done too many is because there are so many. People do complain about there not being a lot of documentation for Blender, and that's not true. How do you think I learned? If you go to the Blender website, they have plenty of documentation. Also, I just want to thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I hope you find it useful. Making screencasts like this is takes way more patience than I do, because it took us how long to make a 15-second video, and then you have to sync your voice to it afterwards. So if I was do it this way, I would do it as I did in the first tutorial on this, where I recorded actual video of planes and then just kind of had the 3D, that way I don't have to animate the cursors and the menus and that sort of stuff. But I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. I've talked enough. Please visit filmsbychris.com. That's Chris with a K if you have not already done so. Check out the links in the description. I'll try to remember to post the blend file for this. I'll package in all the images, which is an option up here under File, Pack. You see external data, pack into blend file. That will make your blend file a lot larger. It won't package in videos, but we didn't use any videos inside this. So that way you have one blend file, you can move it from computer to computer and don't have to worry about losing the images that you have in there, so like our cursor and our planes. So I'll upload that blend file. You can download it, have a look at it, play with it. That way you have an example to look at. And once again, I've talked way too much. Have a great day.